I was immediately interested in the first-person puzzle platformer Light Matter developed by Tunnel Vision Games as soon as I first saw it, simply because it reminded me of Portal. I love Portal, and while I'm not very familiar with other first-person puzzle games like Antichamber and the Talos Principle, it's a genre I'm interested in exploring. And on that front, Light Matter is a fun, if somewhat derivative, puzzle platformer that will test your skills and occasionally frustrate you, as expected. The game takes place in Light Matter Technologies, a scientific research facility that's in ruins following experiments with an energy substance known as light matter. You play as an unnamed protagonist who needs to escape with the help of Virgil, the very friendly CEO of the company.
Impressive. If you continue like this, I might just hire you to mop the floor.
Unfortunately, the facility is overrun with dangerous shadows that kill you if you touch them, meaning you need to stay inside the light at all times. In order to survive, you'll need to solve puzzles by manipulating objects, interacting with the environment, and doing some light platforming. Pun not intended. If this all sounds very Portal-like, well, that's definitely intentional. It's clear that Portal was a big influence on Light Matter, from the narrative and aesthetics to the gameplay and puzzle design, and the game even directly references Portal multiple times. I typically don't like comparing a game to others when evaluating it, but Light Matter doesn't try to hide its admiration for Portal, almost to a fault. Inevitably, you're going to weigh Light Matter against Portal because of the similarities, which isn't fair since it makes Light Matter harder to shine on its own, pun sort of intended. Where it does stand out is the concept and puzzles. The puzzles focus around the use of light to create areas that are safe to walk on to avoid being swallowed by shadows. You'll need to manipulate objects like lamps and conductors to drive shadows away and activate switches. The puzzles rely on lateral thinking and surveying your environment to solve, and the difficulty scales very naturally. Some of the puzzles are irritating, but there's an appropriate feeling of satisfaction that comes when you finally figure out the answer. It's a good thing that moving around is pretty solid too, because you need platforming skills in addition to mental dexterity. Combining the platforming with using light to create safe areas leads to a game that mixes intelligent puzzles with fun gameplay. However, I noticed that the walking speed sometimes changed after a significant event, like a scripted sequence where the character falls, which I believe was intentional, but it feels unnecessary. That's my only problem with the gameplay though, as Light Matter is otherwise a solid game, one that's over before you know it. Depending on how good you are at solving puzzles, it'll take you about 3 to 5 hours to beat, and while it's entertaining all the way through, the short length might turn some of you away. Aesthetically, Light Matter looks nice, with simplistic cel-shaded graphics and a color palette of bright metallic colors that contrast well with the dark shadows, which is helpful in distinguishing safe areas. And the soundtrack, composed by Ulrik Christensen, delivers some pleasant ambient songs with an appropriately scientific mood that goes well with puzzle solving. My only real criticism with the game is the story, which is told well, but never really grabbed me. Without spoiling anything, the plot doesn't take any real unexpected twists, and again, it feels too much like Portal to me, especially with the references that were honestly too on the nose for me. I did enjoy listening to Virgil guide me through the game though, especially because of the voice performance by David Bateson, even if it is very GLaDOS-like.
I know you are ambivalent about your survival, and so am I. But I will feed you to the shadows before I allow you to destroy Light Matter.
Otherwise, Light Matter is an enjoyable puzzle platformer with an innovative gimmick that the developers use just enough to create a fulfilling game without going too far. It may be too short for some, and its similarities to Portal may be distracting, but for those who enjoy a brain-teasing game with a unique concept, Light Matter does the job well. You can play the first hour of Light Matter for free through Steam, and I highly recommend you give the demo a shot because it'll give you a taste of what Light Matter has to offer without costing you a dime. It's a solid puzzle game that doesn't overstay its welcome, and I'm excited to see what Tunnel Vision Games will deliver next, because if this game is any indication, they've got a bright future ahead of them. Pun absolutely intended.